As a divorce attorney, I fear that Bunnie XO may be a little delusional when it comes to still wanting to have children with Jelly Roll even after the divorce. And while the parties may agree to it now, we're going to be discussing why this may not be the best idea in the long run. And make sure you watch all the way to the end because we're going to be discussing everything from the actual divorce petition, the agreements that the parties already have, and since the parties were on an IVF journey according to Bunnie, we're going to talk about the possible legal implications of the custody of the embryos. But before we get into the divorce, we first have to talk about who these people are. Let's start with Bunnie. She is the host of the Dumb Blonde podcast and is also known as a podcaster, media producer, and entrepreneur. Her husband Jelly Roll is a musician whose style blends Southern hip hop, rock, and country, and according to the internet, he gained his mainstream popularity through songs like Son of a Sinner and Need a Favor. Let's start off with the manner of filing. Jelly Roll is the one that filed for the divorce, and as you can see, he marks no kids on the divorce petition. This is important because Bunnie still wants to have children with Jelly Roll even though they're going through a divorce. And while Jelly Roll has been adamant that the choice to divorce was mutual, Bunnie has said on her podcast that it was not mutual, but she did kind of initiate it during an argument when she told him to file divorce papers, packed up, and moved out for several weeks. Like, girl, I don't know how you were surprised that he filed the divorce when you told him to file the divorce. I understand that you guys were in the middle of an argument, but you definitely took it a step further when you packed up bags, left the house, and according to you, didn't speak to him for several weeks. Girl, I would have filed the divorce too. Now, jumping right into the divorce documents because no one has actually been sharing them, but we're going to share them today because I am an attorney and I do not cover things without proper legal documentation. So this case is filed in Williamson County, Tennessee at Franklin, and it's filed by Jason Bradley DeFord. I hope I'm saying that right. And the respondent is Elisa Andrea DeFord. And again, I hope I'm saying her name right. It reads, plaintiff/husband Jason DeFord is married to defendant/wife Elisa DeFord. The following is the statistical information pertaining to the said parties. We have the husband Jelly Roll, whose real name is Jason. He's Caucasian. He's 41 years old. He was born in Tennessee. He does not have any previous marriages. He is not a part of the United States Armed Forces, and he is listed as self-employed. And then we have Bunnie XO, whose maiden name is Elisa Andrea Carter. She is Caucasian. She has lived in Tennessee for 7 years. She was born in Texas. She has had 2 previous marriages. She is not a member of the United States Armed Forces, and she is listed as self-employed. They were married on August 30th, 2016 in Las Vegas, Nevada, and their date of separation is May 9th, 2026. So they are just under 10 years of marriage when he's filing this divorce. They lived in Franklin, Tennessee at the time of their separation, and the parties have no minor children together. The grounds for divorce is irreconcilable differences, which generally means that the parties are just unable to get along as husband and wife, and nothing can help them other than to get a divorce. But you would be surprised that Tennessee actually has 15 grounds for divorce, and let's take a look at what those are. And let me tell you, some of the reasons are actually crazy. I'm a California attorney and our only reasons for divorce is irreconcilable differences and if the party is incapacitated so they can't make decisions for themselves. So we only have 2 grounds for divorce in California versus Tennessee's 15, and some of them I have never seen any other state have. So the grounds for divorce in Tennessee include the person being incapable of procreation, entering into this marriage while they're already married to someone else, committing adultery, willful or malicious desertion or absence of either party without a reasonable cause for 1 whole year, being convicted of a crime that renders the party infamous, being convicted of a felony and sentenced to confinement in the penitentiary. Either party has attempted to take the life of the other by poison or any other means showing malice. So you tried to kill your wife. Either party refusing to move from Tennessee with their partner and that party remaining in Tennessee for 2 years. That's a strange one. If I don't want to move with you, you can divorce me. But I mean, I guess you should be divorced at that point anyway. The woman being pregnant by another person without the husband's knowledge, habitual drunkenness or abuse of narcotic drugs of either party when the spouse has contracted either such habit after marriage. So basically, if you had these abuse issues before marriage, you can't divorce on these grounds? What is that? The husband or wife is guilty of such cruel and inhuman treatment or conduct towards the spouse as renders cohabitation unsafe and improper, which may also be referred to in pleadings as inappropriate marital conduct. The husband or wife has offered such indignities to the spouse's person as to render the spouse's position intolerable and thereby force the spouse to withdraw. Either party abandons, kicks the person out, doesn't provide for them even though they have the ability to provide. Irreconcilable difference, which is what Jelly Roll is filing under. And if the parties have lived apart for 2 or more years and they don't have any minor children. Wow, that list was long and crazy, and I didn't expect some of those reasons to be there. There is no protection order currently in place. The husband will respectfully show unto the court that these parties are unable to live together successfully as husband and wife, which is the irreconcilable differences ground. Plaintiff charges that the parties have suffered irreconcilable differences as would entitle either of them to a divorce in the event they execute a marital dissolution agreement that provides for an equitable division of the parties' assets and apportions responsibility for payments of the parties' debt pursuant to the statute. So essentially, he's asking for a divorce based of no fault to the other person, and they intend to come up with an agreement to settle their debts and assets. Husband would state that during the marriage, the parties have accumulated certain real and personal property and incurred certain marital debts. The husband anticipates that the parties will execute and enter into a marital dissolution agreement that provides for a division of the parties' marital assets and debts. Plaintiff asks that the court approve any marital dissolution agreement entered into by the parties upon the expiration of the waiting period. So Tennessee does have a waiting period. California doesn't necessarily have a waiting period, but your divorce cannot be finalized until after 6 months. Tennessee's waiting period is only 60 days with no children and 90 days with children. So their waiting period is actually shorter than California's. And the mandatory waiting period starts the date that the petition is filed, not when the parties actually separated. Jelly Roll said that they separated May 9th, but he didn't file until May 18th. And continuing with the divorce petition, Jelly Roll is also asking that proper process issue and that the wife is to be served, but that the wife is not required to answer. That just means that Jelly Roll needs to serve Bunnie with the divorce petition, but that Bunnie is not required to file a response to the divorce, and we can see on the court docket that she has not filed a response as of yet. And it makes sense that Bunnie has not filed a response because according to her podcast and also according to this divorce petition, the parties are entering into a marital settlement agreement. Bunnie indicated that they entered their agreement within 3 weeks of the divorce being filed. So all they're really doing right now is waiting for the 60 days to be up so that they can finalize their divorce. Jelly Roll also asked that the notice of statutory injunctions also be attached and incorporated into the divorce petition, which are just the rules that the parties have to follow until the divorce is finalized. Jelly Roll also asked that he be awarded an absolute divorce from Bunnie and be restored to all the rights and privileges of an unmarried person. He asked that the court approve any marital settlement agreement that the parties enter into, and in the event that they don't enter into an agreement, that he be allowed to amend his divorce complaint to add additional grounds for divorce. So those 15 that we just went over, he can add more of those onto the irreconcilable differences. He also asked that he be granted any other relief the court deems necessary and proper, which is normal legal jargon to say, if I missed anything, yeah, add that in there too. According to Bunnie's podcast, the parties have already agreed on at least 2 things. The first thing is that Jelly Roll has agreed to give Bunnie XO the housing compound they had been building during the marriage. She says this includes 3 houses that her and her podcast members are going to move into and live all together. It is unclear whether that compound comes with any debt or if the parties paid it in cash, but if it has any debt to it, generally Bunnie XO would be responsible for paying for that mortgage or any other financial loan it might have come with. Secondly, according to Bunnie, they are agreeing to have children together. Now, it is unclear if that is actually being written into the marital settlement agreement, and if it's not, it can turn into a very messy situation. Because even in divorces where children are already involved, custody tends to be the most contested issue in any contested divorce. People spend hundreds and thousands of dollars fighting what would be the proper custody arrangement for the parties. Now, the parties may have already agreed to what they expect custody to look like because they already raised Bailey together, but the difference here is that it doesn't sound like they are going to be living together. So having custody of a child where you guys live in a house together is completely different than having custody of a child where you guys live separate and apart. And while it's not common that you agree to have children together in a divorce settlement, Bunnie let us know that they were going through an IVF journey, which potentially means that they already have embryos on reserve. And as crazy as it sounds, embryos are considered assets when it comes to a divorce. And the parties can agree to dispose of those embryos, only one party keep the embryos, or they agree to transfer those embryos together and they both will be the parents. What it sounds like Bunnie is explaining is that they're agreeing to transfer any leftover embryos that they have and potentially make more if they deem deem that necessary. I would love to know the actual details of them continuing to have the children even though they're going through a divorce. Are they going to transfer embryos that they already have? Are they willing to make new embryos? And are the embryos actually included in the divorce settlement? Because if they're not, Jelly Roll can easily back out of this agreement. And while the parties have at least verbally agreed to this according to Bunnie, there is a high likelihood that these two may never have children together. And the reason for that is that Bunnie has already explained that they have had a hard time getting pregnant. That is why they are on an IVF journey to begin with. The other part of that is a little more personal in nature. It seems that this marriage had a rough start to it, being that Bunnie was previously an SW and that the parties became clean together. I don't know if that was from drugs or alcohol or both. But Bunnie also talks about the reason why the divorce was filed is because they were arguing back and forth that Jelly Roll is a runner. This time she was the one pulling back from the relationship. She's the one that suggested the divorce, then packed up, left, and didn't talk to Jelly Roll for weeks. So while the parties are getting along now, while they're deciding assets and debts and they're happy about the money that they're dividing, who's to say where they will be in the next couple of months when the parties are living separate and apart? Jelly Roll is already dating, and maybe Bunnie XO is going to move on as well. And I highly doubt any new partner would be okay with exes trying to have babies together. And Bunnie describes them pulling away from each other during the IVF journey. So what makes her think that they are going to be able to continue the IVF journey while being separate? And they need that emotional support that they were not able to give each other during the marriage. How are you going to give it to each other now that you guys are separated? It just doesn't make sense. So as a divorce attorney, this does not seem like a good idea to continue to have the children after the divorce is finalized, because you already weren't able to work together during the marriage, and custody battles are hard enough as it is. But anyways, let me know in the comments what you think, and if you made it this far in the video, make sure you are hitting the like and subscribe button, and I will see y'all all in the next video.